Hi, I'm Don Blackwell, and I am the Executive Director of the Gospel Broadcasting Network. Welcome to this episode of Truth on Wheels. I have a guest with me today, Brother Bill Haywood. Good to have you with us.
It's great to be here, Don. Thank you very much.
Bill is the director of the Tri-City School of Preaching. Tell us where that's located, Bill.
It's in the heart of the Tri-Cities of Northeast Tennessee, which would be Johnson City, Kingsport, and the Bristol area, Bristol, Tennessee, Bristol, Virginia. But really, the whole region is known as the Tri-Cities, and we're right in the heart of that, in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains. So, very beautiful area.
Okay. And why I wanted to have you on today is I've been thinking for some time there is a need to promote good, solid schools of preaching. I was just doing some searching on the internet. Currently, there are over 8 billion people in the world. 105 people die every minute. That is almost 2 people per second. Mm-hmm. And of course, the majority of them are not Christians. They're going to die. They're going to be lost for all eternity. And so there is a great need to preach the word and to get the soul-saving message to these people. And so there is a need for gospel preachers. Many people don't feel like they're adequately trained to go out and to preach. They're not equipped to do so. And so some congregations of Churches of Christ have set up schools. And that's the situation that you have, right? You're operating under a congregation?
Yes, we are under the oversight of the elders of the Stony Creek Church of Christ. You're exactly right, Don. There is the demand, the need is so great right now. And I think perhaps some brethren misunderstand and think that schools of preaching are like a business college and we crank out employees for the church. But we're in a desperate situation where we need men with some grit that are going to preach the gospel regardless. And it's the only hope our world has.
I am a product of a school of preaching. I attended the Memphis School of Preaching, and I think that schools of preaching are doing so much good. It is filling a great need, and I wanted to do this to promote some of the good, solid schools of preaching, and it may be that someone's watching the program and they are interested in preaching the gospel, and so this is for them, to get them to reach out to the school and hopefully become gospel preachers themselves.
Absolutely. There's such a great need right now. Number one, as you mentioned, people are dying every second. Separated from God. We see the problems in our culture today. We talk about, at Tri-City School of Preaching, we talk about why we exist. And we say we exist to challenge the status quo of our godless culture through the gospel. And when we think about the status quo, of course, we look around at the religious world, attend a church of your choice, and now even among many in at least groups that call themselves the Churches of Christ. They don't see a difference between the church and denominations. That's the status quo, and many people are content to live with that. But we look around at the moral issues in our culture, the gender confusion and the violence. And the only answer to that, it's not a political answer. It is the gospel that's going to make the difference now and for eternity.
Let me ask you some questions about the school, and some of these we'll go through rather quickly. How long has the school been in existence?
We began in 2001.
2001, so 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
Who can be a student there? And what I mean by that is, are there educational requirements? Do you have to pass the SAT or ACT? Do you have to have a certain score? Someone might be thinking, well, I'd like to preach the gospel, but I just don't feel like I've got the academic credentials to go to a school of preaching.
We have 3 big requirements for a person to come to school. Now, before I mention those 3 requirements, I will say we would like for someone coming in to at least have a high school degree or a GED, but we can even work with them in those situations. But there are 3 non-negotiables, and this is not just a cliche. They have to love God with all their heart. They have to love truth so much so that they're willing to die for it. And they have to love souls so much that they're willing to sacrifice so that they can reach a lost world. Yeah. And if they meet those 3 requirements, we will work with them.
Okay. All right. What's the cost to attend the Tri-Cities?
It's very costly. is very costly.
Yeah.
However, students are not required to pay anything to attend there. Faithful brethren across the brotherhood supply the funds to pay the teachers, to help maintain the facilities. The Stony Creek Church of Christ, they have a large investment at every month putting into the school. And so the students, they don't have a financial obligation. However, it will cost them a lot of hard work. It will cost them some of their leisure time. But at the same time, let me say this, I don't want to scare anyone away. We try to be very balanced and make sure that we maintain a good balance for family time as well.
So they don't have to take a student loan to live there because that is covered by brethren, by Churches of Christ.
Absolutely.
Their education. Now, if someone wanted to move there and they have a family, how would that work? Do they have to live on campus? What kind of housing situation?
Well, we have several options. We have some local congregations that have homes that they used to use for their preachers that they no longer use it for that purpose. So there's some homes that are available. We have a situation right now, a wonderful couple from around Radford, Virginia, that they're working with a congregation in our area and living in the home. We have some limited housing right now for single students. And as a matter of fact, we were talking a little while ago, we're in the process of acquiring a home. Now, let me back up. We are also in the process of trying to build some student apartments, but in the process, we stumbled across a great opportunity to purchase a house that would allow us to have quarters for single students in a wonderful downstairs area, separate entrance, and then a home upstairs for a family. So there are a lot of different options that we can work with.
Okay. Tell me about the schedule. If a person moves there and they're going to be a full-time student, how many hours a day, what days a week would they attend classes?
Let me back up and explain how we got to where we are. Back in the late 90s, I was privileged to sit around a table at Burger King a couple of days a week, and Wesley Simons and Eddie Kraft, myself, some other preachers, and we began looking at, okay, what's the best approach? And what came out of that was the schedule that we have now. Students are in class 18 hours a week, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. The reason why we did that is as we began to look at it, we said, do they need an additional 3 hours of lecture for each class, or do they need that time to really dig into the text, try to master the material, and grow from that standpoint? Now, there's another aspect to this. So they're in class 18 hours a week. We ask the instructors to balance their outside work to no more than 2 to 3 hours per hour that they're in class. So they're going to have another 36 hours of outside work. So minimum, they're going to be tied up 54 hours a week between class time and their outside work.
Wow.
And so we try to be balanced, but it's also demanding.
How long does it take to go through the school?
Okay, we have a 2-year preaching program, and we also have a 3rd year in apologetics, and we recommend that men stay for the 3rd year in apologetics.
Now, 54 hours a week, that's a lot. How rigorous is this? You know, somebody might be thinking, I wasn't a good student in school, I just can't handle this.
We're very blessed to have some marvelous instructors. We have a man right now, I think he's about 45, and it was a great concern. He said, I haven't been a student for, 30 years. And so his biggest struggle is in the language classes. He hasn't started Greek yet. He's still working on English. But we have 4 quarters of English, which also involves composition and things of that nature. And he struggles with that. But the particular instructor in that class is so good about tutoring him and helping him. And if a man will try his best, that's the only thing we really demand, is you've got to try your best. Now, if you're a C student and you're trying your best, we will be pleased with that. But now we'll be upset if a individual is not willing to give their all, they won't make it.
Now, you mentioned English, you mentioned Greek. What will they study? Describe the schooling experience or the program of study.
The first 2 years, you're going to cover every book of the Bible. And then we also have some specialized courses that we believe are really fundamental for preachers. We have a class on the inspiration of the Bible, which it's a first-year course. We believe that men need to have confidence that the Bible is the verbally inspired, inerrant, perfect will of God. Then we're also going to have some classes in those first 2 years. We have a whole quarter. Now, I find that people find this shocking, but we have a whole quarter on marriage, divorce, or remarriage. And we've got people that say, really, a whole quarter? Well, typically, if someone sits in that class at the end of a quarter, they say, my goodness, I know so little. I need to study so much more because, as you know, there's so many varied doctrines out there, false doctrines that are in conflict with the Scriptures. And we want these men to face this before they come to school.
Yeah, I think that's great. You know, I've done some videos on marriage and divorce, and so I get questions, I would say on a weekly basis from all over the place. And people say, well, I talked to this preacher and this elder, and they're getting conflicting answers. And so I think that's great that you're doing this.
Let me mention something about our third year. Our third year, and we built that in because we recognized how much our society has changed. And so we deal with some things in the third year that are really going to be challenging to preachers as they go out into the field. We deal with subjects like epistemology. How do we know? How do we know that we know? Which is, in my opinion, that's the battle line for us in our culture today. Yeah. I teach a class on worldviews. How did we get to where we are now, and how do we communicate with people in our culture that use that very similar vocabulary, but they mean different things by that. Yeah. We have a whole quarter, or one class that's a quarter long, on evil, pain, and suffering. Historical Christianity, the philosophy of God, and then we also have a quarter on Calvinism. I don't mean to belabor this, but I had an elder say, a whole quarter on Calvinism. Calvinism is dying away. No. Calvinism has been rebranded as Reformed theology, and it is going strong, and they are militant about this, and our men need to be prepared.
Yeah, most denominations are rooted in Calvinism.
Absolutely.
Yeah. After a man graduates from the Tri-City School of Preaching, will he typically become a full-time preacher?
Typically. We tell our young men we make no promises because of the changing situation in our culture. I was recently looking at some statistics from that Rob Whitaker had done by a major university on the Churches of Christ, and I believe it's like we're losing about 300 congregations a year. Wow. But we're also we're losing a lot of preachers, and it's a very sad situation. Every time we have a man graduate, we have 4 or 5 congregations wanting that man. I was just recently in Illinois. A congregation went 2 years without a preacher. They finally convinced a retired man who's 76 to come out of retirement to preach for them. And he said, I just don't know how long I can do this. And that was the best that they can do. So there's a great demand out there for local preachers. And that's what we need, is men who love local work.
Yes. Now, is there a website, a Facebook page, where people can go and learn more about the school?
Absolutely. If they will go to tcschoolofpreaching.com, T as in try, C as in city, tcschoolofpreaching.com, they'll find our website. On the website, they can find an application. They can find out some information about the school. There'll be a contact button, and if they click on that, they can send us a message, and we'll be in contact very quickly. Or they can go to Facebook and look for Tri-City School of Preaching and Christian Development. If you just type in Tri-City School of Preaching on Facebook, you'll find it. Also, if they want to look for a particular page that I use to promote things, it's Bill Haywood, the @ TCSOPCD.
Okay. And of course, Tri-Cities is not the only school of preaching. It's not the only sound school of preaching. I know, as I mentioned, I graduated from the Memphis School of Preaching. My son graduated from the Memphis School of Preaching. And just this week, I talked to Brother Terrence Brownlow-Dindy from the Texas School of Preaching, and I think that's a good school. There are other good, solid schools of preaching, but I know that Tri-Cities is a good school. I think all of the staff there and have known most of you for years, and I've got great confidence in the school. Incidentally, can you give me a rundown of the instructors, the staff?
Absolutely. I'm very enthusiastic about the staff that we have. Our academic dean, Tim Phillips, he's not well known, but I oftentimes say he is the smartest man in the building. He is just absolutely brilliant. Of course, Eddie Kraft, many people know Eddie Kraft. Eddie Kraft's been preaching for maybe close to 60 years, a tremendous gospel preacher and a student favorite. Wesley Simons, one of the most logical thinkers that I know. I'm so indebted to him for all that I've learned from him. Also, David B. Jones, who has taught at one time at Memphis School of Preaching, a student favorite. Matter of fact, I had a student tell me recently, when David teaches, it's like he's painting a picture and the text just opens up. Jeff Johnson, who is our Dean of Students and does a marvelous job. Ethan Tate, who is our language arts teacher, and he is also our Dean of Media. And incidentally, I failed to mention a moment ago, that's one of the classes our third-year students will have is technology and ministry, and we train them in our television studio and our radio studio, and they participate in our live call-in radio program. And then also we have Robbie C. Eversole has recently joined us, senior. For those who know junior, we're talking about senior right now. And Robbie has been working for us on a part-time basis and has recently made the decision to retire from local work to focus on the school. And he'll teach some classes for us, but primarily he will be our field representative. And we're just very enthusiastic about that. He has a good reputation. He is a sound gospel preacher. And we believe he'll be a tremendous asset to the school.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was going to bring up about Robbie, and it had slipped my mind, but I had done a gospel meeting down in Tryon, Georgia recently, and Robbie came over, and he told me what he was thinking about, and that he's going to work full-time at the school. I've known Robbie for years, and we've been friends. I've got a lot of confidence in him. In fact, the Cookville Church of Christ, where I'm one of the elders, we have decided we're going to support Robbie and encourage others to do the same. And
it would be a great investment. If anyone's interested in the kingdom, Robbie would be a tremendous investment.
I agree with that. He's got backbone, and he's a faithful man. He spent 27, 28?
I think he's right at 28 years
that he's been in Pennville. So, yeah, so he's got staying power, and I appreciate him, and I like all of the men there.
And his preaching, I'm thrilled that that's going to represent our school, because that's who we are. We believe in good, sound preaching.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Bill, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Dolly.
If there's anything GBN can do for the school there, we would be happy to do that. I think good, sound brotherhood works need to join forces.
Absolutely.
I remember someone saying years ago, lighthouses don't compete with one another. And I've always liked that we can work together for the Lord's kingdom.
Well, we're in a great battle, and the Lord's forces had better unite and work together.
Yes. Well, thank you for joining us for this episode of Truth on Wheels. If you are interested in attending a good, sound, solid school of preaching, reach out to Bill or reach out to us at the Gospel Broadcasting Network, and we can put you in touch with Bill or another school if you are in a different area perhaps. But until next time, thank you for joining us for Truth on Wheels. Stay faithful.
The Bible challenges the status quo of the godless culture around us, changing lives now and for eternity. That's why we exist at the Tri-City School of Preaching and Christian Development. We want to help you save the lost through the power of the gospel. Whether you want to be a preacher, a Bible class teacher, a missionary, a future elder or deacon, a better spouse, or conduct a personal Bible study, we're here to help you strengthen your faith. For Christians young and old, Tri-Cities has something to offer all who are passionate about the Great Commission. We're striving to train workers for the kingdom, gospel warriors, the future of the church. We're here to help you go. Learn how you can begin today at tcschoolofpreaching.com.